What should I do if my husband has left Islam after converting? Uh, wow. So this is a very difficult situation for anyone who's tested with it. Clearly, there's always going to be feelings. Generally, people feel affection for for their spouses, um, and it is going to be a painful situation. So the general rule is in a non-Muslim land, one that's not governed by Muslims and the courts don't run by the the rules of the Sharia, is the husband and wife remain married for the duration of 3 of her menstrual cycles. And in this time, she should speak to him. She should get others to speak to him. Try and ask him why. Um, Islam obviously made sense to him at one point, and he saw the beauty of it. That's why he accepted it. And for someone to leave, usually when people leave, it's usually a combination of not understanding Islam and then other sources of trauma, um, and them affecting a person's understanding. Sometimes people blame God, or sometimes, let's say someone who's been through a difficult domestic situation. Yes, let's say there's been domestic violence or something like that, and people end up either blaming Islam, or if they've had difficult circumstances because of a particular culture that identifies as being Islamic, and they confuse Islam with the culture. People can generally, they experience doubts, or they decide, well, this isn't for me. And so in this time of the 3 menstrual cycles, the the lady should speak to him and get people to speak to him, and you just generally get him to express what his qualms are, and then have that explained to him. Islam in and of itself, inherently, it's right, it's correct, and it makes sense. And people don't have to, yes, there are things beyond what the mind can comprehend. You tell anyone to describe to you, you tell anyone to visualize the speed of light, something moving that fast, or visualize the distance between the sun and the earth, the 93 million miles, and the light takes from the sunlight takes about 8 minutes to get to earth. Just visualize 93 million miles. You can't visualize the solar system's diameter. Visualize the closeness of Proxima Centauri, the closest star, and the mind shuts off. So there are things like someone understanding the Isra and the Mi'raj. We say, look, it's within the realm of possibility. If it wasn't possible, like 2 plus 2 equaling 9, or drawing a square circle, those things are not rationally possible. It's just so you can't claim that you've drawn a square circle, or you had 2 sweets and another 2 sweets, and you ended up having 9 sweets, right? So, but the Isra and the Mi'raj, or someone traveling such great distances, in part of a night, it is possible. I mean, don't people imagine wormholes and these sorts of things? So Allah, who can do anything, can make that happen. So it's not inherently impossible. So Islam makes sense. So these things should be explained to the person, and ultimately it's dua, and asking the person to come back to the truth. But if he doesn't, then at the conclusion of her third menstrual cycle, after his ridda, after him leaving Islam, then their marriage is over. And and what the deen looks at here, what Islam looks at here, is her well-being. They may love each other, and perfectly understandable. There may be children in the marriage, perfectly understandable. But the harm that would come to a person living with someone who has animosity towards the deen, it's going to be an impossible situation. If someone, let's say, was a Muslim and then they left, for them to just be neutral about it and just to not have any sort of critical words, that's never going to happen. And vegans who start eating meat start criticizing other vegans, vice versa. So it's going to be like that. So it would lead to harm to to the wife, it would lead to harm to the children. And unfortunately, the highest and the worst, highest level of harm and the worst level of harm is, a person's iman being lost, their faith being affected. So in this situation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a ruling that, of this marriage will be ended, looking at the well-being, the long-term overall well-being of the remnant people, the family members. Now, as I said, it can be very difficult. Sometimes people find it hard. They fall in love with a non-Muslim, and then they find it difficult when they say that the Sharia forbids marriage to them. But they don't see that. Okay, you may feel for this person, but how many times has a person been led into a situation that's bad for them because of their feelings? And or to remain in a situation because of their feelings. So your feelings are not the barometer of what's good for you and bad for you in the long term. They may bring short-term pleasure or pain, from being separated from someone, for example, or being with someone, but it's not the deciding factor. And our Creator, who knows what's best for us, has given us this the rulings of the Sharia for our benefit, not his. Nothing can benefit him. He's perfect already, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this situation, she would have to separate from him. And it's understandable that it's likely to be a painful situation. But imagine, it must be very difficult for people who have non-Muslim relatives, especially those who die without embracing Islam. I mean, because where are they going to go in the akhirah? They've rejected their Creator, and they have to answer for that. And where are they going to go in the akhirah? That must be painful enough. And imagine losing one person to that in your life, and then if someone was to stay with such a person, living that life would erode her iman. It would erode it completely, and to the point where people who were once religious could end up becoming people, a'udhu billah, Allah protect us, but could end up becoming people who just couldn't care less. And the children, children have, parents have a duty of care to the children, and this duty of care also extends to their spiritual well-being, their well-being in the akhirah. And a parent who's, like a father, or the husband who's left Islam, if there's children there, what image is he going to paint of Islam to the children? And so before people think, oh, Islam splits up families or anything like this, no, look at the long-term well-being of people. If you're just thinking about this life and the 50, 60, 70, 80 years people live here, that's one thing. But the matter doesn't end there, does it? It continues into the akhirah. So it would be advisable for her to go speak to, say, a local scholar and family, and the close community that she feels she can share with, and to get some support. It's not going to be an easy situation, and someone like this doesn't have to deal with it alone. Rather, having people around you is very important at this time. But to see the wisdom of this is also quite important. You don't want it affecting you to the point where your faith is influenced and negatively. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for well-being in our deen, our dunya, our akhirah, our iman, and our practice, and afiyah and protection in all. Ameen ya Rabb.
لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله